in this chapter about the selections. Let's go to the folder Rectangular Marquee Tool. With the Shift key, I select the two images, then I drag and drop the files to Photoshop, just like that. As you can see at the top, there are two tabs for each photos. In this exercise, the goal is to detach the painting from the wall, then bring the painting to the living room. For that, let's go to the Paintings tab. First of all, I'm gonna take the Rectangular Marquee tool. Then, click and drag from the corner to create a rectangular selection and release the click. The selection is done. Let's zoom in to be more precise. Press down the Alt key or Option on Mac, then scroll the mouse wheel up, and as you can see, the selection is not perfect. So thanks to the contextual bar, I can adjust the selection. So I click on this button, Transform Selection. From here, I can click on this handle, then press down the Shift key, then click and drag to adjust the height of the selection. Alright? Press down the spacebar to move across the image. Press down the Shift key and move the handle to increase the width of the selection. Press down the spacebar to move. Press down the Shift key to increase the height of the selection. Alright, I can validate the changes by clicking on the check mark. I double-click on the hand tool to see the entire image. OK. Now with my selection visible, I'm going to hit Ctrl-C or Command-C to copy the selected pixels. Then in the tab of the living room, I'm going to hit Ctrl-V or Command-V on Mac to paste the selected image. Press down the V key to take the Move tool and adjust the position of the painting. And there we go, that was the goal. Now let me delete this layer by hitting the Delete key on my keyboard. I go back to the Paintings tab and I'm going to show you another solution. From here, I can take the Move tool, then click and drag to cut the image, bring the cursor to the tab of the living room without releasing the click. Place the cursor over the image, release the click. Take the Move tool to fine-tune the position of the painting. And there we go. To sum up, in this exercise, we made a selection with the Rectangular Marquee tool. Then we copied and pasted the selected pixels in the photo of the living room. It is as simple as that. Voila, that's all for this lesson. In this chapter about the selections, let's go to the folder called Elliptical Marquee Tool. From here, I can select the two files and open them in Photoshop. As you can see, there are two tabs, one for the ball and one for the soccer field. So from the image of the ball, I'm gonna take the Elliptical Marquee tool. The tool is hidden with the Rectangular Marquee tool. The goal is to detach the ball from the background. For that, I can click from the center, then press down the Alt key or Option on Mac to create the circle from the center. Then release the click. Actually, as you can see, the circle doesn't fit the shape of the ball. So I can click on this button right here, Transform Selection. If I click, the frame of transformation appears. So I can click on the top handle right here, then press down the Shift key to increase slightly the height of the selection. Let's do the same thing for the width. Hold the Shift key and grab the handle. I can click and drag to increase the width of the selection. I can hit Enter to validate the transformation of the selection. And with the selection visible, I can copy and paste the ball to the soccer field, as easy as that. For that, hit Ctrl-C or Command-C on Mac. Let's go to the tab of the soccer field. Hit Ctrl-V or Command-V on Mac to paste the image. As you can see, there is a new layer of the ball which is copied. Let's rename it Ball, just like that. Now in the contextual bar, I'm going to click on this button right here, Transform Image. I'm going to click inside of the frame to move the ball. Then I move the target point at the bottom of the frame. If I press down the Alt key or Option on Mac, then I click on a corner, I can resize the ball from the target point. Then hit Enter to validate. And it's done. The ball is cutted out from the background and copied into the soccer field. That was the goal. Let me delete the layer. I'm going to show you another way to do that. I can take the Move tool and with the selection visible, I can click and drag to bring the ball to the soccer field. A new layer is created. I can transform the layer by hitting Ctrl-T or Command-T on Mac, move the target point, press down the Alt key or Option on Mac to resize the ball from the target point. Finally, move the ball, then hit Enter to validate. So thanks to the Elliptical Marquee tool, we detached the ball from the background, then we copied and pasted the ball into the soccer field. Voila, that's all for this lesson. In this chapter about selections, let's go to the Lasso Tool folder, then let's open the photo of the flowers, just like that. The goal is simply to duplicate a group of flowers by using the Lasso Tool. For that, let's take the Lasso Tool, which might be hidden with the polygonal Lasso Tool, so make sure to select the Lasso Tool. Now I'm going to make a selection around the group of flowers. As you can see, I follow manually the edges of the flowers. The selection is a little bit bigger, I exceed the shape of the flowers, release the click and it's done. The selection is closed. This technique is quick and easy, but it's not precise. Now with the background layer selected, I can right-click, then choose Layer via Copy. Now the selected area is duplicated, a new layer is created, I can rename the layer, Flowers, hit Enter. Now I'm going to take the Move tool or hit the V key, then click and drag to move the group of flowers. Now I'm going to click on this button right here, Transform Image. It will display the frame of transformation. I scale down the image by clicking on its corner, just like that. I move the image by clicking inside of the frame. Then I click and drag outside of the frame to rotate the flowers, just like that. Hit Enter to validate. I cutted out the image very quickly, but the result is not realistic, especially on the edges. So for the second step, I'm going to take the eraser tool right here, then right-click to adjust the size of the brush, maybe about 80 pixels, for example. When I hover over the image, I can check the size of the eraser. It seems to be good. For the hardness, I will choose 0%. I want a soft brush. Validate with Enter. Now I can erase the edges. Let's zoom in to be more precise. Press down the Alt key and scroll the mouse wheel up. Before that, I need to check if the good layer is selected. This is a good layer. And I'm going to erase the unwanted pixels by following the edges of the flowers. Maybe the size of the eraser is too big, so I can right-click, then reduce slightly the size, and I continue to remove quickly the pixels. I erase the green pixels along the edges, and the result will be more realistic because I create soft edges. Click and drag to erase the pixels I don't need. Just follow the edges, just like that. I remove the leaves. This method is totally manual. It can take time. Finally, I can right-click, then decrease the size of the brush to be more precise and remove the remaining pixels, just like that. So I can take my time, if I need more precision, to remove the pixels. Then I can double-click on the hand tool to fit the image to the screen and see the entire image. As you can see, the result is not so bad and quickly done. To conclude, with the Lasso tool we can make quick selections, but the selection is not precise. So the second step is to use the eraser tool to improve the result by following the edges of the object. Voilà, that's all for this lesson about the Lasso tool. In this chapter about selections, let's open the folder called Magic Wand. Then open the two images in Photoshop. As you can see at the top, there are two tabs, the tab of the eagle and the tab of the landscape. Let's go to the Eagles tab. The goal is to detach the eagle, then bring it into the landscape. For that, to make a selection, there are a lot of solutions. I can use, for example, the Select Subject button. It's quick and easy. Photoshop will use artificial intelligence to detect the eagle. This is the best solution. Okay, I click on Deselect to get rid of the selection. Another solution is to use the Object Selection tool, choose the lasso mode, then make a selection around the eagle. Photoshop will use artificial intelligence to select the eagle. This solution is also quick and easy. But let me show you a standard tool called the Magic Wand. At the top in the options bar, I need to check the tolerance. By default, the value of the tolerance is 32. If I click on the blue pixels at the top, for example, Photoshop selects all the shades of blues, not the same value of blue. Now what I can do is to invert the selection by clicking on this button, Invert Selection. The eagle is now selected, as simple as that. Hit Ctrl-C or Command-C on Mac to copy the selected pixels. Let's go to the Landscapes tab to copy the selected pixels. Hit Ctrl-V or Command-V on Mac. With the Move tool, I can move the eagle in the sky. And as you can see, the eagle is copied as a new layer. I'm going to double-click to rename the layer Eagle, hit Enter. The eagle is cut out from the background. I can hit Ctrl-T or Command-T on Mac to transform the eagle. Click on the corner to adjust its size. You can also rotate the eagle by clicking outside of the frame. OK. Hit Enter to validate the transformation, and we are done. To sum up, we used the Magic Wand tool to select the shades of blues. Then we inverted the selection to select the eagle. So the Magic Wand tool helps you to select the pixels with almost the same color. Voilà, that's all for this lesson. In this chapter about selections, let's choose the Quick Selection Tools folder. Then open the photo of the dog. In this exercise, the goal is to create a copy of the dog, then place it next to the original dog. For that, I'm gonna use the Quick Selection tool, which is hidden with the Object Selection tool and the Magic Wand. The icon of the tool is a brush, because it's like painting a selection. If I go at the top in the Options bar, and I click on the circle icon, I can change the size of the brush. I'm gonna choose a size which is not too big and not too small. I need to be precise. Let's choose a size about 25 pixels, a small size. From here, I need to paint from the inside of the dog. I click and drag to paint the selection. But my cursor mustn't exceed the edges of the dog. I can release the click to take a breath, then continue painting. Click and drag from the inside of the shape of the dog. I can move the contextual bar, then continue painting. I paint the selection, then release the click. I click and drag from the inside of the dog, but I don't exceed the edges. That's very important. As you can see, Photoshop detects automatically the edges of the subject. It uses artificial intelligence. As you can see, the outline of the circle of my brush is touching the edges of the dog, but don't exceed the shape of the subject. Now let's improve the selection. I zoom in to be more precise, press down the Alt key, then scroll the mouse wheel up, just like that. The outline of the circle of my brush mustn't exceed the edge of the dog. If I exceed the edges, just like so, my selection is too big. So I can press down the Alt key or Option on Mac, a minus icon appears, and if I paint, I can subtract the selection which exceeds the shape of the dog. Again, the border of the circle is slightly touching the edges of the dog. Hold the spacebar to move across the image, just like that. Right here, the selection is too big. Press down the Alt key or Option on Mac to remove the unwanted area. The border of my circle is touching the edge of the dog. If I make a mistake, I can undo the action, and I click and drag to paint around the edges. Press down the Alt key to subtract, Ctrl or Command Z if you make a mistake, and now the selection is nicely done. Let me double click on the Hand tool to see the entire image. From here, I can check if everything is well selected. I double-click on the Zoom tool to see the image at its actual size, like in a web page. Now I'm gonna hit Ctrl-C or Command-C on Mac to copy the selected image, then Ctrl-V or Command-V on Mac to paste the image into a new layer. As you can see in my Layers panel, I have a new layer, which is a copy of the dog. I'm gonna take the Move tool to move the new dog, just like that. I click on the Transform Image button, click on a corner, then reduce the size of the dog. I can click on this button to flip horizontally. Now it looks pretty nice, not so bad. Finally, I can rename the layer Dog, just like that. To sum up, the Quick Selection tool uses artificial intelligence to detect the edges of a subject simply by painting. It's like painting, but painting a selection. Then we can detach the selected image from the background. If you want to remove a selected area, you can hold the Alt key or Option on Mac. Voilà, that's all for this lesson. In this chapter about selections, let's choose the folder Object Selection. Then open the photo of the sunflower, just like that. The goal is simply to select and duplicate the flower. For that, we will use the Object Selection tool. Let's go on the left in the toolbar. I can right-click to be sure to select the Object Selection tool. It may be hidden with other tools, like the Quick Selection tool or the Magic Wand tool. Then at the top, in the Options bar, you can choose the mode. By default, Rectangle mode is activated. I'm going to choose the Lasso mode, which is more precise. Then all I need to do is to make a selection around the flower. As simple as that. Release the click. Now Photoshop will use artificial intelligence to detect the edges of the flower. There's nothing to do, Photoshop will do it for me. And now it's done, the shape of the flower is automatically selected. Let's zoom in, press down the Alt key or Option on Mac and scroll the mouse wheel up. As you can see, this selected area is too big. For that, hold the Alt key to subtract this area. Then make a selection around the unwanted area, just like that. There are still some pixels selected, so let's do the same thing again. Hold the Alt key, make a selection to remove this area. OK, use the spacebar to move. In this case, there is a missing area. For that, I press down the Shift key. As you can see, there is a plus icon on the cursor. Then I make a selection around the area that I want to add. And it's done. Use the spacebar to move across the image. Then hold the Shift key. You can see the plus icon on the cursor and make a selection around the missing area. Photoshop calculates, then adds this selection. Alright? Same thing right here. Press down the Shift key. There is a plus icon on the cursor. Make a selection around the missing area. Photoshop calculates, then adds the selection. As easy as that. Finally, let's double-click on the hand tool to fit the image to the screen. Now I'm going to copy and paste the selected image. Hit Ctrl-C or Command-C on Mac to copy the selected image. Then Ctrl-V or Command-V on Mac to paste the selection. A new layer of the flower is created. I will name it Sunflower. Hit Enter to validate. I'm going to take the Move tool or hit the V key. Now I can move the new layer of the sunflower, just like that. I can click on this button right here, Transform Image. If I click, there is the frame. I can click on the corner handle to reduce the size of the flower. I click outside of the frame to rotate the image. I adjust the position by clicking inside of the frame, hit Enter to validate. And there we go. To sum up, the Object Selection tool is a powerful tool. It uses artificial intelligence to detect the edges of an element. Then you can copy and paste the selected image to create a new layer. So the Object Selection tool is really useful and time saver. Voilà, that's it for this lesson. In this chapter about selections, let's go to the folder Sky and Subject. Then I open the photo of Lisa in Photoshop. First of all, the goal is to duplicate Lisa to create a clone of Lisa. In this case, the subject is complex because she has hair, so the quick selection tool is not precise enough. The easiest way to select the subject is to use this magical button right here, Select Subject. If I click on Select Subject, Photoshop will detect automatically the edges of the subject. It uses artificial intelligence to understand where is the subject. One click and it's done. That's very useful. Now, to detach the image, I can copy and paste the selection of the image. Hit Ctrl-V or Command-V on Mac. Now, in the Layers panel, there is a new layer, which is the copy of Lisa. Then I can use the Move tool to move the Lisa's clone. In the contextual bar, I can click on the Transform Image button, flip the image vertically with this button, then scale down the image by dragging a corner, hit Enter to validate. I adjust slightly the position with the Move tool, and it's done. There are two sisters walking in a field of flowers. You can also access to this function Select Subject by going to the menu Select, then choose Subject. That's another way to do so. To sum up, this function Select Subject is powerful. You can select a subject with only one click. Then to detach the subject, you can copy and paste the selection of the image. This is the easiest way to do so. Another solution is to create a mask. We will cover that later in the course. Okay, let me show you the second example. I'm going to select the backgrounds layer right here. Then let's go to the menu Select and choose the sky. Photoshop will use artificial intelligence to detect the sky. Now I'm going to remove the pixels of the sky, then replace it with another sky. For that, let's unlock the layer by clicking on the padlock icon, then hit the Delete key to remove the pixels of the selected area. Click on Deselect to remove the selection. Now let's import the image of the new sky. I'm gonna go to the menu File, then Place Embedded, and I select the sky in the Good folder. Move the sky by clicking inside of the frame. Increase the size of the image by clicking on its corner. Adjust slightly the position of the sky. Once satisfied, hit Enter. Then in the Layers panel, I'm gonna move the sky at the bottom of all the layers. That's much better. I adjust again slightly its position with the Move tool. And now, thanks to the artificial intelligence, we have a nice photo montage. To conclude, these two functions, select subject and select sky, are very useful and time saver, so don't forget them. Voilà, that's all for this lesson. In this chapter about the selections, let's go to the folder called Color Range. Then I select the two files and bring them to Photoshop, just like that. As you can see, there are two tabs. There is one tab for the wave and one tab for the surfer. The goal is to detach the wave from the background, then to put the photo with the photo of the surfer. Okay, so let me go back to the photo of the wave. As you can see, the edges of the wave are complex. They are composed of drops of water. So obviously, if I take the Lasso Tool, for example, then make a selection manually, you will see that the result is not precise. If I apply a mask, as you can see, the edges are too sharp. So let me go back, I deselect. Let me show you if I use the Quick Selection tool. There is the same problem. I can apply a mask. As you can see, the edges are too sharp and the result is not precise. Let me show you a last example. If I take this tool, the Object Selection tool, I can make a selection around the wave, just like that. Photoshop uses artificial intelligence to detect the edges of the element. Then I apply a mask to show you quickly the result. And again, the edges are too sharp. So one of the solutions is to go to the menu Select and then choose Color Range. As you can see, a new window pops up. And from here, I can use the color picker. And if I click on a white color, right here, for example, the selected pixels are changing. If I click on the blue color in the sky, the blue pixels are selected. Indeed, there is a white area in the thumbnail. Then I can adjust the fuzziness. It's like tolerance. When I increase the fuzziness, I expand the area of the selected pixels. Or I can decrease this area. I advise you to watch the selection in black and white. That's very useful. Okay, now the goal is to select the wave. For that, I'm gonna click on a white pixel. As you can see, the wave is almost selected, but there are still some gray areas inside of the wave, which means the wave is not totally selected. If I want to add the gray pixels to my selection, I can press down the Shift key, or I can take this icon right here with a plus sign on it. I click to take the tool. I want to expand the actual selection, so let me show you that. If I click on the gray pixels right here, as you can see, the selected area is bigger. The shadows of the wave are included in the selection. Now I can adjust the fuzziness to fine-tune my selection. To select the entire wave, the wave needs to be totally white and the background totally black. This is the case. I can validate. Now hit Ctrl+C to copy the selected pixels. Then let's go to the tab of the surfer and paste the image, Ctrl+V, Command+V on Mac. Now there is a new layer, let's name it Wave. Hit the V key to take the Move tool. As you can see, the cutout of the edges is subtle and realistic. We can see clearly the drops of water along the edges of the wave. Now it looks pretty nice, that was the goal. Let me show you the second example. I'm gonna go to the folder of the jellyfish. Then let's open the two files in Photoshop. As you can see, there are two tabs, the tab of the sea and the tab of the jellyfish. The goal is to detach the jellyfish from its background, then bring the jellyfish to the photo of the sea. That's the goal. Let's start from the photo of the jellyfish, and I'm gonna use a tip to detach the subject. So how to do that? Do you have an idea? Let me show you that. Let's go to the menu Select, then choose Color Range. Now instead of selecting the pixels of the jellyfish, I'm gonna click directly on the blue background. So if I click, as you can see, the dark blues are selected, and if I click on the plus icon, I'm going to add to the selection the light blues. Let's add again this area of blues, and finally the jellyfish is totally black. Now I'm gonna click on this button right here to invert the selection. And it's done. The jellyfish is selected. I can click right here to add this missing area of blues. Now the jellyfish is totally white. It means the jellyfish is totally selected. Validate with OK. Then I'm gonna copy and paste the selected image. Hit Ctrl-C or Command-C on Mac to copy the image. Let's go to the tab of the water and paste the selected image by hitting Ctrl-V or Command-V on Mac. Let's move the image with the Move tool. Adjust the position. I'm going to click on the Transform Image button, press down the Alt key and grab a corner. So I increase the size from the center of the image. Not too much, I don't want to lose quality. Hit Enter to validate. To improve the result, I can change the blend mode. Let's choose a nice effect. Maybe this one, Screen mode. Or this mode, which looks pretty nice, Hard light. Let's choose this one. Then I can decrease the opacity to add a little bit of transparency, and it's done. The jellyfish is well integrated into the sea. To conclude, the color range function is very useful. It helps you to select an element with a selection based on the color. It's not a tool, we need to go to the menu Select. Voila, that's all for this lesson. In this chapter about selections, let's go to the folder called Combine Selections. Then let's open the image of the butterfly in Photoshop. Just like that. In this image, the goal is to detach the butterfly from the background. For that, I can copy and paste the selection, or I can create a mask. We will cover that later. So to do so, I'm going to combine different techniques of selections. First of all, let's try the Select Subject button. We choose Artificial Intelligence. As you can see, there is a problem. Photoshop can't detect the butterfly because there is also the flower. For that, let's try another Selections tool. In the toolbar, I right-click, then I choose the Object Selection tool. At the top, I'm going to choose the Lasso mode, which is more flexible. Then let's make a selection all around the butterfly. The selection is bigger than the butterfly, just like that. Then let's see the power of artificial intelligence. It's done. The result is excellent. Almost 80% of the work is done. This tool is time saver. Okay, let's zoom in, press down the Alt key and scroll the mouse wheel up. Now, as you can see, the selection can be improved. There are some missing areas and sometimes the selection is too big. As you can see, for the leg of the butterfly, there is a missing area right here. The pixels are not selected. So let's add this area of pixels for the leg. I'm going to zoom in to be more precise, just like so. Then I will choose another tool. Let's choose the Polygonal Lasso tool. Do you remember? This tool allows you to create lines. In order to add the selection, I'm going to press down the Shift key. As you can see, there is a plus icon on the cursor. Each time I click, I create a line. Click one more time to create a line. Click again, one more time. This tool is very precise. I can double click to close the selection. And as you can see, the selection is added. Alright? Let's continue. Press down the spacebar to move across the image. Then for this area, I can also choose another tool. The Lasso tool can be helpful. The selection is totally manual, it's like drawing a selection. To add this area, I'm going to press down the Shift key, there is a plus icon. Now I can click and drag to expand the selection. I draw some details, just like that, then close the selection. And it's done, the selection is added. Let's do the same thing right here, in this area, hold the Shift key and add this area. Close the selection, release the click, and it's done. Now for this leg, I'm going to subtract the selection. For that, I can take the Polygonal Lasso tool. Then I press down the Alt key or Option on Mac. As you can see, there is a minus icon on the cursor. I'm going to subtract this area right here. I need to close the selection like so. Perfect. Subtract again. Hold the Alt key or Option on Mac. Click to create a line. Close the selection. I think you get the idea to combine selections. Hold the Alt key to subtract this area. The Polygonal Lasso tool is well adapted for the legs of the butterfly. And with this technique, you can fine-tune the selection. That's alright. I double-click on the Hand tool to fit the image to the screen and see the entire image. There is a missing area, so I'm going to take the Lasso tool, press down the Shift key to add the selection, and it's done. To sum up, by combining multiple tools of selection, like the Object Selection tool, the Lasso tool, the Polygonal Lasso tool, etc., we can improve the selection. If you want to add a selection, you can hold the Shift key, and if you want to subtract a selection, you can hold the Alt key or Option on Mac. Just keep that in mind. Voila, that's all for this lesson.